when he was with Denna. And Denna's gone. And he's in this stressful situation. He hasn't found his friends yet. He hasn't been comforted yet. And he needs a way to deal with this. And so the way he's dealing with it is by giving the devotion. And even though the devotion, I don't think means anything to him, I think it's the action of giving the devotion that is really meaningful.
Yeah, it's just the act of like clearing his mind and not having to think about the things around him, I think. Just focusing on the words that really just takes him out of the moment and lets him think about other things. And it works. He calms down. But at that point, he feels something touch his leg.
Fuck that.
Yeah. Fuck no.
This was the first part of the chapter where I looked over at Jade and was like, I'm out. I just can't. Being stuck would be bad enough. Being stuck and then something touches my leg. If you guys don't know by now, if something were to grab my leg, immediately I would either be tickled by it or it would throw me into a panic.
And Richard acts about the same way that you would. He kicks out at it in panic.
Even though it's not much of a kick. It's more of like a jerk because he can't really move.
Yeah.
I think that's the worst part about it. He just can't do anything about it. He can't whip around and be like, oh, what is that? Let me stab it. He's just stuck.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're going to nope out at this point because you're pretty well having to deal with it. Yeah.
So after he like kicks it away, it comes back, but this time it starts going up his fucking pant leg. And this is really when you would start panicking. But Richard, being Richard, he keeps his calm. He lets all the air out of his lungs, and he pushes and pulls himself forward. He makes it about a foot, give or take, which is a long ways. But then, like we were saying before, you're shoving yourself in towards the narrow part of a triangle almost. And so the farther he goes, the more it presses down. And so he lets the air out of his lungs. He pulls himself forward, scrapes forward, and then he can't draw a breath because the rock has compressed on him that much more.
Yeah, his body doesn't have the room to move enough for his lungs to expand. And on top of that, the thing is literally in his pant leg wrapped around his thigh. The tip of it is wrapped around his thigh. There's also a lot more innuendo here. Lots of tips and tentacles and wrapping and
poking and prodding and pinching and
pant legs and arousal. Wait, no arousal.
No arousal.
I mean.
So he's reaching out mid panic, can't draw a breath, and his fingers finally feel the outside of this little pathway through the cave
that he's in.
Yeah. And so using the edge, he fucking pulls himself as hard as he can. That, and like what Jade was saying, this thing is grabbing at his legs, trying to pull him back now.
Yeah.
Or if not trying to pull him back, like attacking him.
Yeah, I think it's grabbed his other leg at this point too, and he knows he has to get away from it. He pulls himself a little bit farther forward until his elbows are right at the edge, and he ends up dropping the sword and the torch down there. And it's like this little egg-shaped crevasse that everything's sliding down into, and he's like defenseless now at this point, but he's got the opening, so he just needs to get through there.
Yeah, and I mean, at this point he can breathe, so at least he can like gather himself. The problem is now that Richard is in this opening. He's in a little egg-shaped safe space that's got holes punched in every wall, kind of like surrounding him. And this thing is reaching through these holes with its apparent multiple arms. Now, she did point out the first time it was an appendage. That's how it was referenced. Yeah, well, that's kind of what I was, like a tentacle with maybe I almost pictured a gripper, like what Addie was describing earlier.
Yeah,
with like a
cat claws.
Yeah, you can grab whatever it is you're reaching and wrapping around and start chewing on it right there.
It also seemed to have like a hard tip.
Yeah. Sorry.
Which was weird.
It's basically a spider that behaves as if it's one of those, what'd you say? It's a cave octopus.
Yeah.
It's a cave octopus.
It's a cave
That's
octopus
what it is.
that has kitty claws on the inside of its dick arms.
Fuck.
What's funny, before he drops into the egg-shaped little cavern thing that he's in, I thought it was a little bit funny because he drops all his shit and he goes to like slide down the wall, but the thing has its legs, so he like starts to slide and he's like, "Woo, yeah, I'm away," but the thing has his legs, so he gets like most of the way down and then he's like dangling.
Jerks to a stop.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, what the fuck?
Yeah. Oh shit.
I was out.
And then he's got to stab the fuck out of it before it drops him. And then, yeah, starts to come in all the different holes around this little cave thing. And the bulk of it tries to come in the room with him.
Yeah, like its body.
Yeah.
The arms, which, like we were saying, probably can hurt him. They have like claw tips and stuff on them. But the bulk, as it comes into the area he's in, I think this is the part with the mouth.
Yes, I agree.
The part you worry about, that you don't want to see. So he did what any good cave dweller / hero woods guide would do, and he stabs it in the eye.
Bitch.
And obviously this makes this creature back off because it just got stabbed in the eye, and it leaves.
Yeah, it's like, okay, bud. Fuck you, and it takes off.
Yeah. I mean, you hope that it goes somewhere to die.
Yeah.
But it doesn't say.
No, I would assume it's just pissed off and nursing its wounds.
Just
coming
right
back.
around the corner, getting angrier and angrier. Time to leave the cave. But before we do that, I think we gotta have some beer.
Is it time for a beer break too?
Well, yeah, you gotta kill a monster and then you gotta have a beer. It's part of being a hero. It's in the code.
Yeah.
Well, tonight we are drinking Elliot Ness. It's an amber lager from Great Lakes Brewing Company. But Nate, you say, Great Lakes Brewing Company isn't in Michigan. You're absolutely right. It's from Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah, they're imposters.
Jade and I went to the store and we're like, well, let's buy one of those multi-packs. We hadn't tried anything from Great Lakes Brewing Company, and we saw it, and we're like, okay, yeah, pick it up, multi-pack. We can get through a few shows with it. It's great. As it turns out, they're in Ohio, not Michigan. So the Great Lakes Brewing fooled us, but you guys, there's no reason to be too upset because this is really good beer.
And I mean, we're going to drink it.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to drink it. So the name of this beer, actually, I want to point out, is Elliot Ness. And that's explained on the back of the bottle. It says, admittedly, it's a bit of a paradox to name our amber lager for history's most famous agent of prohibition, but it's a smooth, malty, and dare we say, arresting paradox.
Ah.
Okay, so it's not so funny, but you know what? Super fucking interesting. So points to Great Lakes Brewing Company for that.
And it actually tastes better than I thought it would.
I thought that I might like it. I didn't know what to expect. It is smooth. It is malty. And I want to say it's almost like wheat.
Yeah.
I might be way off with that, but that's just kind of the flavor profile that I'm getting. So we're going to grab one more. You guys should too. And we'll be back right after this.
And we're back. So Richard, much like we just did, sat and chilled for a minute and tried to assess his situation. He realized that his leg isn't doing super great, but he can't deal with it right now. He's got to go steal the egg before he can deal with it.
Right. Much like we said, there's nothing in there to help him. He's got no help coming. Nobody's around. He's on his own. So he follows a dim light and finds the opening of the cave, which he knew was there. Right, we said from the original hole that he had to crawl through because there was air coming through it. So this is the source of that air.
Right. And much like he said, this took like all night to get through because Dawn and birdies and a whole bunch of fucking cars greet him on the other side. which most of that is a happy sight after the darkness and probable death that he just dealt with.
Right, which lasted a lot longer than I like to think that it lasted. What we just read, I could see that happening over the course of an hour, right? But no, that takes all night. So that means he was stuck for what? A couple hours?
Yeah. I mean, I would like to think that he was walking for most of the hours and was only stuck for a couple minutes.
Just through that little piece of it?
But, I mean, he lost track of time, so there's no way for us to have track of how long each of those chunks took, really.
That's true. I guess, it's just the way I was picturing it. Like, the further you go, the shallower and shallower it gets until eventually you're pinched in. So, like, halfway through, he must have already been on his knees. But, yeah, you're right. It probably only really started to close off once he got there.
But that means that he could have trucked pretty fucking fast for most of it.
Also true. Meaning he could have spent a lot of time being stuck in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so bad. Sorry, I just had that thought and I wanted to bring it up. Like, he must have been in there for a while.
Yeah, you give some, you take some. Either way, he was in there all night.
Yeah.
Once he's out, he kneels behind a rock and tries to, like, figure out what he's going to do next. He sees the egg. And as he's sitting there, he smacks a bug on his leg. And immediately realizes that he's fucked. It was a real big mistake, bud.
Well, why is that, JD?
Because that was a fucking blood fly.
He doesn't even get a minute to reassess the situation. He gets out of the cave. He's like, whew, cool. All right, let's get my bearings. What the fuck is that? Oh, shit. And he immediately has to go. But Richard, being Richard, comes up with an idea that I think's pretty fucking brilliant. He's hurt and he has these like strips of his bloody pant legs, right? So he ties them to rocks and then he hucks them into the woods. And that way, all of the flies, they go after those instead of Richard.
He's thinking like super quick. Like, I know he's the seeker of truth and shit, but he's like fucking Matlock here. Wait, is Matlock? No, MacGyver.
MacGyver is closer, yeah.
I don't know. I never watched any of those shows. I'm just assuming this is a thing that like a quick-witted person like that would do.
Oh, yeah. Super fast. And then on top of that, he uses the bird whistle to call a shitload of birds. So the birds, they swoop in, they kill the flies. The gars freak the fuck out because all their flies, which are how they eat, are being killed.
And some of them are still on their body when the birds come. So some of the birds are like attacking the gars themselves.
Oh, yeah. They're getting swooped. Well, there's thousands of birds.
Yeah. It says every time a gar takes a bird out of the sky, like 10 more replace it.
Which, horrifying.
That's too many birds.
That's too many birds.
And the gars are like, what the hell is going on? We were all just hanging out, having a good afternoon, and all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose.
Right. We're just chilling out. Bill, he was going to make a steak later.
Now Bill has no fucking arms.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So this beautiful thing happens in the middle of all of this chaos. Richard uses this distraction to run down towards the egg. As he goes, he's hacking at gars that are coming at him, much like Bill now with no arms. He does not kill them. He just hacks them to bits. A head here, a leg there, an arm there. Okay, maybe a head would kill somebody, but you get the point.
Just mutilates the fuck out of a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, he's not taking the time to finish any of these creatures off. He's just like slashing them as he's running through, which, yeah, he probably has to do, but asshole, man, he doesn't kill any of them.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, I do, but there's a certain line between like, they're kind of animals. They didn't ask for this either, kind of. Right?
Well, okay, here's what I think. I think when it comes to nature and like the food chain, gars are probably above people. So